You can submit questions on our channels page, and you can also submit questions on YouTube. Kids under the age of 18, you're going to be sending us an email at kidsquestions@wildearth.tv. And I'm going to start today off with one of our unanswered questions from Hannah. And Hannah asked yesterday, how much do cormorants weigh, or what is the largest cormorant? And I said that white-breasted cormorants weigh about 3 kilograms, but I was wrong because they only weigh about 2 kilograms. Our bank cormorants weigh 2.1, so they are the heaviest of cormorants. But your white-breasted cormorants are quite a bit taller, about 15 centimeters taller than your bank cormorants. So the banks are the heaviest, and the white-breasted cormorants are the tallest, coming in at about 90 centimeters. Let's go have a look at our weather forecast and see what they say for us today. So today is definitely partly cloudy, and we've got intermittent rain coming in. Otherwise, it's a beautiful day, just a bit of wind on the water, but the wind is dropping down. We had lots of rain last night, which is part of the surprise I'm hoping to show you a bit later on. And you can see we don't have a very large swell rolling in today, so the sea is looking fairly flat, although it would be quite bumpy. And yesterday we had another very interesting question that I wasn't able to answer, and it really set me down a bit of a rabbit hole. And we were looking at earthquakes in the area. So I mentioned on the show yesterday that Cape Town and Africa really is very lucky in that we're not, or certainly Southern Africa is very lucky in that we're not close to any of the tectonic plate fault lines. And so what I want to do is I just want to show you in the book, and Jason is going to have to tell me the best way to do it. But I have my book over here, and I want to show you where the fault lines are because they are in red. And you can see that Africa is quite lucky in that we have no faults very close to us. And so earthquakes that cause big sea waves are not a big problem for us here. You can see it there. And the largest earthquake that I was able to find recorded in Cape Town was about 52 years ago. And it was at the magnitude of about 6.3 on the Richter scale. And the most recent earthquake or tremor I could find was only about 2 on the Richter scale, and that was back in 2020. So I thought maybe we'd start off the show doing something different today and showing you a couple of rocks. And to the left of me, we have some very pretty rocks that are all layered up and very foldy. And they are super indicative of the rock formations that we have in the Cape.
Thought you had daddy issues? Well, think again. Not all dads in the wild have the most commendable parenting skills. Here at WildEarth, we've seen many fathers who will go to the end of the earth for their young. And also, tragically, the ones who'd rather just eat them for breakfast. In honor of Father's Day on the 19th of June, we're excited to welcome James Henry back to WildEarth to host a special Explorers Fireside Chat in honor of all the wild dads at Djuma.
7 of our favorite furballs are ready to rumble and receive names as members of the Djuma clan. And who better to name these cubs than you? This is Ntima's second born, and dare we say golden child, full of fun? Is their name Kira, the beam of light? Is it Kemba, meaning faithful in Norse? Or is it Mikateko, the blessed one? Head over to our website to cast your vote.
And And so you're seeing folds, which is a result of two tectonic plates that have smashed together, and it causes the rocks to bend. And the Cape Fold mountain range was formed when the Falkland Plateau crashed into the African plate. So when I was reading about it last night, if I see Falkland, I think of the islands with all the penguins. Ella, 10 years old, you have such incredible questions for a 10-year-old, and what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to count them in the book. So the Antarctic plate is super large. I'm sure you guys saw when we were looking at it, but I'm going to count them out loud for you. So I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. I'm counting 18. I'm a very bad counter, so I'm just going to confirm that. So there are actually several plates around the world. The African plate is quite large. It encompasses the whole of Africa. The Antarctic plate is very large. The Eurasian plate is quite large. And so we've got some of these really large plates where you have your continents sitting, and in between them you have the smaller plates, and I think those are the ones that can sometimes cause a bit of trouble. So if you are living on a fault line of one of these plates, that's where you might experience things like your earthquakes. But I wanted to start off just showing you guys that we have this incredible formation down here at Stony Point. Natalie, so that's a really cool question. I think that it would. I think if I think about what happened with the tsunamis that happened many years ago, I think if the animals pick up that there might be some extreme force coming up, because it's really its force. It's kind of like a ripple. So if you throw a rock into the water, then that ripple sort of carries on, and animals pick up on these changes, and at times I think they get worried if they know that things are changing. So it is likely that animals might move away from that area. I believe that in 2006, when we had this very bad tsunamis, that the animals actually moved up to higher ground, your terrestrial animals. Your oceanic animals might well also move out of the area if they pick up on changes. I think animals are very sensitive to changes in their environment. I think humans used to be, and we've sort of trained ourselves out of that. So we don't do a lot of geology on the show, and I think that's mainly from my side because I haven't spent too much time reading about rocks recently.
Long misunderstood as dim-witted, gluttonous scavengers, the hyena over the years has had a serious PR crisis on its paws. Here at WildEarth, our beloved Djuma clan has allowed us a chance to set the record straight.
We're sitting here with the Djuma clan.
So now it's time to honor this critical animal and join our hyena hullabaloo. Trishana Naidu, a self-confessed hyena lover, will be leading the celebrations, culminating in a chance to name Ribbon's new cubs.
So Ella, I've just had a look in my book, and it says that there are 15 to 20 different tectonic plates. So I think it's not a number that we actually know as people very clearly. These plates are constantly interacting with each other. And as a South African and as an African, I'm quite glad that we're lucky enough to not be on any of these fault lines and not really experience too much of the trouble of what happens when these plates move. But the rock formations that we see here are a result of two plates coming together, and these rocks sort of shot out the earth, and that bending that we were looking at can take millions of years. So I think in the weeks to come we might have to study geology a little bit more and talk more about the rocks that we have in the area. What I do know is that the rocks in front of us are the perfect haven for all four of our cormorant species down here at Cormorant Cove. And I think we're just going to spend a little bit more time in this area, and then we're going to pack our bags, figuratively, and head over towards Oystercatcher Cove. So we want to do a little bit of a walk with you today. I want to have a look at the aloes, the ridge. You can see Cormorant Cove is looking a little bit empty today. I think a lot of the birds have gone out fishing. And I'm so glad that we got to start the show here and just show you how the birds are faring. And many of those juvenile cormorants we were watching are still around. Cindy, a very happy Seabird Saturday to you too. I think every Saturday should be Seabird Saturday. And I think there's no other spot that really encompasses that in this area more than Cormorant Cove, because all of the birds tend to enjoy being here, and if they don't live here, we certainly see them fly past. It's always a very chaotic location because you've got so many birds occupying such a small space. Tanya, so that's a really good question. I wouldn't say that they're discovering brand new species. I haven't heard of anything recently. I think because birds breed on islands, for the most part, we've actually identified most of the birds. I think that when new species are being identified, it's often when we have what we call subspecies. So that's when taxonomists and biologists are looking at a singular species, for example, and then they're saying, hang on, this is not the same bird. So the example that comes to my head is the Indian and Atlantic yellow-nosed albatross. To us, they might look exactly the same. And I'll actually have a squiz in my bird book and see if I can find that for you. But then, you know, scientists do their studies and they figure out that the populations are perhaps so different that they actually need to separate them.
7 of our favourite furballs are ready to rumble and receive names as members of the Djuma clan. And who better to name these cubs than you? This is Ribbon's second born, with nicked ears and a softer heart full of adventure. Is their name Rangani, the adventurer? Is it Twela, the sensitive and empathetic one? Or is it Spirit, for that spirited soul we love so much? Head over to our website to cast your vote. 7 of our favourite furballs are ready to rumble and receive names as members of the Djuma clan. And who better to name these cubs than you? This is Ribbon's firstborn, distinct from their sibling by their full round ears and more curious nature. Is their name Matimba, meaning strength? Is it Shongela, the defender of the weak? Or is it Wiley, the crafty and cheeky one? Head over to our website to cast your vote.
So Jason and I are on the move, and we're just giving you a nice view of the aloes that we have down here at Stony Point. You can see they're growing right at the top of the hill. And we did say that we were going to talk a bit more about medicinal uses for plants, and aloes have many. So apparently they are antibacterial, they can help with inflammation. There are some cultures that have actually used aloe bits, so that what they'll do is they'll cut up little pieces of aloe and they'll put it in tea, and it's supposed to be just a tea to actually help you lose weight, although I wouldn't recommend trying that unless you've spoken to a doctor. And Jason is just going to walk in front of me now. So aloe has many different uses, and apparently they actually used one species of aloe in Hiroshima when they had the wounds from the atomic bomb. And so aloe is known to have many different medicinal uses. It's also a really beautiful plant to have in the garden. In South Africa, it is a water-wise plant, so it's a good plant to have that you don't have to water all that frequently. And aloes often attract your sunbirds and your sugarbirds. I've seen weavers actually enjoy the nectar of aloes. What's lovely is that they flower in winter, so where most of your other flowering plants in other parts of the country will not flower in winter, you'll often find that your aloes will, and it'll provide food. Lisa, so these are aloes, and I have been trying to find which species it is. South Africa has several different species of aloe, and I haven't been able to pick up exactly which species. Is it ferox? Okay, so Jason is saying he thinks it's ferox, which is a very common aloe species throughout the country. And aloe ferox is a species that is used in place of aloe vera. So aloe vera is the one that gets all of the hype when it comes to medicinal use.
I think it's called paper aloe. I think this is called paper aloe.
And Jason knows a lot about aloes, I think. Do you like aloes, Jason? Is it a...
Yeah, but medicinal properties, I know they use for other skin care, for skin remedies.
Okay, so Jason is saying he actually loves the medicinal properties, and so aloe ferox is actually used in a lot of skincare, so it can help make your skin really smooth. It can be used on wounds. It can be used on sunburn. It also shows you, I've tried to research what aloe species this is, but I haven't been able to actually have a close enough look because we can't access that part. So I'm very chuffed that Jason has been able to tell me exactly what species we have here. And apparently, you can also use this aloe if a woman has just given birth in some cultures. They'll use this aloe to help cleanse themselves.
The Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is approaching us rapidly. This year, we'll be heading to Bushwise Field Guides at the Southern African Wildlife College from the 27th June till the 2nd of July. We will soon meet all our contestants who are vying for the prize of being the very best of the best, and the judges who will put them through their paces. Join me, Steve Falconbridge, as we dream it, guide it, win it.
If you would like to be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration in Kenya live on WildEarth, then we have some great news for you. There are a few places left to join our expeditions in August and September this year. You'll be staying in an exclusive tented camp with ensuite bedrooms nestled in the riverine woodlands of the Talek River. Head over to our website to book your bucket list experience today. WildEarth Expeditions. Travel with purpose.
We are slowly just moving along to get to Oystercatcher Cove. Melissa, so that's a really good question. You're asking if aloe has any benefits to penguins. And to my knowledge, penguins wouldn't really go near aloe. I suppose if a penguin was injured, a human might try and put aloe on an injury, but I wouldn't recommend that. I don't think they really breed underneath the aloes because the aloes are quite tough. In fact, having said that, just behind us there is actually a nest underneath the aloe. So I will see, we've just got a couple of people walking past us, but once they've passed, Jason will show you the nest. Do you see it there, Jay, with the number tag? Just that tiny clump of aloes, almost in line with that big tree. Yes, yeah. So once the people have walked past, then we'll try and give you a view of that nest. So I suppose aloe clumps can provide a place where the penguins can lay their eggs. But medicinally, I'm not sure penguins would ever really use aloe. I don't think we have aloes growing on the islands where penguins would traditionally be. But there is an entire field. I read something about dolphins, and Flippy was telling me, where animals actually medicate themselves. So dolphins will use corals to help treat skin conditions. And so it's not to say that birds might not have their own sort of plants that they might use to help medicate. So I think the camera is going to come towards me for just a second, and then we're going to go back to the aloes and up to the nest. So with the penguin nest, I can see it's a nest because a lot of the nests have these little white sticks outside, and they have a couple of numbers which indicates the nest number. And so that is a fully functioning nest underneath an aloe clump. And I think the aloes are quite thick at the top, so hopefully that's quite a nice protected space underneath the aloes where the penguins can raise their chicks. I don't see any birds in that nest at the moment. But it must have been there for quite some time if it's been labelled. So thank you for that very, very interesting question. I'd never thought about it before, but I guess penguins can use aloes for shelter. And I think what we might do is we might head back to the sea. I did see an oyster catcher. We haven't seen them for quite some time, so Jason is just going to make his way towards me with the camera, and then we'll go and have a look at one of our African black oyster catchers. Senzo, so that's a really cool question. So African penguin nests, I think, would be a similar size. I think that the penguins know exactly what they need, so it's just on that, almost that very last rock he's laying down. So if Horston Mountain is 12, just below him. So what the penguins do is when they start off the nest, I think they start off the nest so small that only the adult penguins can fit in there with the eggs. And then as the babies get bigger, the penguins adjust the nest size so that it's big enough for the babies. And that's a really cool thing that they do, because if they started off their nests very big, then that would make a lot of space for predators to get in and to actually try to steal the eggs. So at the end of the season as we are now, although not exactly the end, but at the time of the season where there are fledglings, I would say that most of these nests are big enough for 2 adult penguins and 1 baby. And some of the nests, like the Shire, are big enough for 2 adult penguins and 2 babies. And I think they don't want them to be any bigger than that. Annie, so that's also a very good question. You're asking if other birds would use penguin nests, and our very cheeky Egyptian geese have discovered that penguin nests are fantastic, particularly the artificial nests that have been set up. And so what they do is they will go and inhabit these artificial nests, which has caused the Egyptian geese population to grow in this area. And we've just got a touch of rain coming in. So you might see that the lens might get a little bit spotty. As soon as it does, Jason will dry the camera. So it looks like we have a monkey's wedding, which is what we call it when it rains and there's sunshine in South Africa. In Afrikaans, it's die jakkalsvrou het met die wolf getrou. So the jackals married the wolf's wife.
Does your dad watch WildEarth? Why not send him a special message on Father's Day? Possibly he's living elsewhere and you can connect through WildEarth. Or maybe he'll be sitting next to you on the sofa. Either way, show him you care by logging into our website and submitting your message, which we hope to relay on Safari Live. WildEarth, it's in your nature. Thought you had daddy issues? Well, think again. Not all dads in the wild have the most commendable parenting skills. Here at WildEarth, we've seen many fathers who will go to the end of the earth for their young. And also, tragically, the ones who'd rather just eat them for breakfast. In honor of Father's Day on the 19th of June, we're excited to welcome James Henry back to WildEarth to host a special Explorers Fireside Chat in honor of all the wild dads at Djuma.
We had a very interesting unanswered question yesterday. We had lots, but this one was, I think, the most challenging to research. So we were talking about the African penguins and the pink glands above the eye. So Arctic Circle is asking us what penguins might use their nests for in off-season. And I think that penguins, if they come to land to rest, they'd certainly go and lay in that spot. I don't think they would defend it quite as carefully. But if you think about it, or if I think about it, there is no real off-season because the penguins breed from about March to August. And then maybe September, October is a time where they would still have chicks in the nest, and then they go into the molting season. So I think that nest is occupied pretty much almost all year round. But they might go and lay in it and relax in it if they do come back to shore. And I think adult penguins do come back all the time. Adult penguins don't. They can spend days out at sea. But if they do want to come back to rest, I think they'd most certainly go back to their preferred burrow. And talking about the penguins, so we were talking about that pink eye gland. And the question yesterday is, do all penguins have the eye gland? And also very interestingly, I think it was Moonbeam Smith pointed out, is it a gland or just a patch of skin? And Jess is saying penguin love, and I think we're definitely seeing some of that on the seashore today. And so a lot of articles that you read refer to that patch of skin above the eye as a gland, but then when I tried to research anything about the gland itself, I was really struggling to find anything scientific about it. So let's call it a gland or a patch of skin. I'll see what else I can find, although yesterday was a bit of a struggle. But going back to it, the question was, do all penguins have that gland? When I went and had a look at a lot of your Antarctic penguins, most of them didn't. I also looked at like the yellow-eyed penguin, they didn't have the gland. But then I looked at all of the most, the penguins that are most closely related to the African penguin, which is the Humboldt, the Magellanic, and the Galapagos. And they all seem to have a bit of that pink variation. And all of these species, all four of those species, are found in warmer climates. So I think it's an adaptation of all of these cousins to cool down in warmer climates. But then the little penguin, which is the smallest penguin in the world, is also in a slightly warmer climate, and they don't have that pink gland above the eye or any sort of thermoregulatory patch of skin that you could see above the eye. So it's a very interesting question, and one that I think is tough to answer. I think that all four of the African penguin sort of cousins, all four of the birds in that grouping, have adapted to have that patch of skin to cool down in hot climates. Not entirely sure what the fairy penguin does should they get a little bit too hot. So the easy answer to the question is no, they don't all have a thermoregulatory patch above the eye. But from that stems lots of other questions. And what are you seeing, Jay? Jay's having a look at the nest, and it's really cute. I think the parent's just got his flipper around the baby.
7 of our favourite furballs are ready to rumble and receive names as members of the Djuma clan. And who better to name these cubs than you? This is Swazi's cub, our surprise wanderer. Is their name Saga, meaning story in Icelandic? Is it Matimu, for history made? Or is it Masingita, the surprise? Head over to our website to cast your vote.
WildEarth's hyena hullabaloo has arrived. And just to add to the hyena hysteria, we have launched some great new merchandise. Find the latest clothing items on the WildEarth shop and proclaim yourself part of the clan with designs like, I'm a fan of the Djuma clan, I named a baby hyena, and more.
So we've been looking at this chick and the parent having a cuddle. Moonbeam Smith. So penguins are not considered amphibians for a couple of different reasons. So one of the things that defines a bird, that makes a bird, is the fact that birds have feathers. So most birds have wings, but penguins have adapted wings called flippers. So amphibians don't have any feathers. Amphibians, I think, also have legs, if I'm thinking about it. In fact, not all. I've gone completely blank as to what defines an amphibian, so I'll have to go and read about that again. But what defines a bird and what makes a penguin a bird are the fact that they have those feathers on their body. Birds also have beaks. And things like turtles have beaks, and they're reptiles. But a beak tends to be a very defining thing in a bird. And then, like I mentioned before, all birds have either wings or adapted wings, like these flippers. So that's what makes a penguin a penguin a bird. The defining characteristics of amphibians I've gone completely blank on. I think amphibians are also closely related to water, as penguins would be. And I'm really trying to go back in my guide brain. This is something you learn about when you do your Fagasa course. You learn about what characteristics defines everything. So mammals, because they have mammary glands. So I'm going to bring that up on the show tomorrow when we are in the intertidal zone. Thank you, Moonbeam Smith. I've got to go do some reading about amphibians. What I do want to do is I just want to go have a look at the bird book, because we were asking earlier about new bird species being discovered. So I just want to show you that example that I had of the yellow-nosed albatross. So the Indian yellow-nosed albatross has white on the head, and the Atlantic has grey. So they're classified as two different species here, and you can see that with the scientific name being different. So Atlantic yellow-nosed and Indian yellow-nosed albatross. It's very difficult to tell out at sea. The one just has a bit more grey on the head, the other one has a white wash. But I think that had to be a later separation. Back in the day, I'm not sure people would have been able to tell the difference. But because it's piqued my interest, I'm also going to have a look and see what was the most recently discovered seabird. So if you have a look here, it's number 5 and 6. And I find that very difficult to tell the difference. It says that it has a grey wash, but that's almost impossible even in the illustration. I know in this area we see predominantly the Indian yellow-nosed albatross. So it wasn't an unanswered question, but I'll go have a look tomorrow to see it's the most recently discovered seabird. They do discover seabirds in new areas all the time, that I will say. So they'll discover them on an island that they weren't discovered before.
Here at WildEarth, we promised great monthly prizes for our explorers, and this month is no exception. If you join our club before the 10th of July, then you stand a chance to win a fabulous Safari Guide online course brought to you by Bushwise Field Guides. They specialize in accredited Safari Guide training with courses tailored for the African safari lodge industry. Sign up to be a WildEarth explorer today and don't miss out on this life-changing opportunity.
So we are having a look at some birds who are huddling up, enjoying the cooler weather that we have today. We had some sunshine earlier on, but it looks like we've got some dreary clouds coming back in. And we're just going to spend a few more moments here. Because what we really want to show you later on is not an animal, but it's something cool that happened last night as a result of the rain. So last night it rained pretty much the entire evening. I think that's also why we have lots of birds out on the seashore today, is they're trying to dry out a little bit. Dark Bay Lover, that's a good question. So the last time we saw, I think I saw Stanley about a week ago, before the show, but we know that our penguin characters are very shy, so often we'll see them before the show, after the show, and in between they decide they're not going to make themselves available. Stanley, I think I saw about a week ago before the show. Pepper, the last time I saw Pepper was on the show with Jason when he spotted Pepper on the slipway. Have you seen Pepper recently? Jay, did you? No, so Jason hasn't seen Pepper recently with Byron either. So Pepper, it's been quite some time. So these penguins can be quite elusive, and I think the best way to spot them is to be around all day long. So a good time of day to be around is very early in the morning when the penguins are leaving, although the colony is still closed at that time. And then in the afternoon after the show, we'll sometimes see them coming back in. But penguins don't have very distinct movements, which makes them very hard to track, because I think it's all dependent on the fish. So you've seen, even if you're a regular watcher, some days, like yesterday, we spent the whole show watching penguins coming back in. And today, when we've been sitting here at Oystercatcher Cove, not a single penguin has come back in from sea. So they kind of have times, they go out in the morning, they come back in the afternoon. But it's not distinct enough for us to really say who are likely to see Pepper at 3 o'clock or see Stanley at 1. So seabirds are difficult to track in that you know, they go out into the entire ocean and their schedule is not that defined. But what is really lovely is that they do have to come back to land, and so we know that we will see them eventually. So I think we're going to give it a couple more minutes here, and then we are going to move and spend our last 15 or so minutes down in the left wing.
Thought you had daddy issues? Well, think again. Not all dads in the wild have the most commendable parenting skills. Here at WildEarth, we've seen many fathers who will go to the end of the earth for their young. And also, tragically, the ones who'd rather just eat them for breakfast. In honor of Father's Day on the 19th of June, we're excited to welcome James Henry back to WildEarth to host a special Explorers Fireside Chat in honor of all the wild dads at Djuma.
So Jason and I are going to take a fairly long walk now, and we are hoping to show you an exciting thing down in the left wing. Just letting Jason walk ahead of me. You can see all of our artificial penguin houses, where sometimes the Egyptian geese like to stay. And while we walk, if you want to ask us some questions, you're also welcome to do that. So Jason is now walking backwards, which is perilous, but he can manage it. So this is the beginning of the boardwalk, and this is the best place to see dussies, although we wouldn't have that many around today in this weather.
Arctic Circle. A dussie is actually indigenous to this area. Arctic Circle.
Arctic circles? So that's a really good question. So you're asking if dussies are indigenous to this area, and dussies would have always occurred here. But I think that we've actually got lots of dussies out at the moment, even though it's cold. They've decided to come out in full force. So the dussies would have lived here, but I think that Stony Point, having become a penguin sanctuary, has made it a much better environment for them because there's less birds of prey and there's less predators around. But there's lots of dune spinach because that was established for the penguins to help with the nests. And so they are indigenous and they are native to the area, but I think that the population has boomed quite considerably. But I think what we're going to do is we're going to keep walking. We've got a little penguin who's waddling the other way. And we're going down to the left wing because we had lots of rain. And we've got something to show you there because we had a question the other day about whether the rain from the waterfalls ends up in the ocean. So we've got something cool to show you on that note. We've got a couple of penguins who are preening each other. And in this section here, because we've got lots of bush, and this is alien bush, it's Roykrantz, we do have a lot of penguins who are breeding underneath the bushes. And the bushes can also attract other animals. So in this area there is a little antelope called the Cape Grijsbok, And that's another animal that we sometimes see before the show, and we are so hoping that one day we're going to be able to capture them for you with the camera. So this is another Dussie Haven. And I believe this would have been old infrastructure from the whaling era.
My name is Nico Brits. I am originally from Cape Town. I worked in the Eastern Cape for about 9 years before I started working at Bushwise Field Guides in the Lowveld, close to Makalali Private Game Reserve. So I'm hoping that by doing this could inspire the younger or newer guides coming into the industry to do the same.
Hello everyone, my name is Ruvan Groble. I'm from Lion Sands Game Reserve, and being nominated for the Safari Guide of the Year came as somewhat of a surprise to me. I was very excited and quite nervous as well in the beginning to tackle this task, but it's quite a prestigious event, and it means that you are recognized, and I'm quite happy to be recognized. It means quite a lot to me.
You are still having a walk along with us down here at the left wing. And we've got one of our main penguin pathways that Jay is passing right now. And it's a fairly long walk, but I think it's worth it because it answers a question that we had the other day. It's also going to show you just how much rain we managed to have last night. And you'll hear when we get into the area that the sounds are very, very different. You're going to start hearing those lovely clicking stream frogs, because I want to introduce you to our left wing waterfall. So this is the left wing where we film so many of our shows. And I was so excited to come down here earlier on and discover that there's a full waterfall flowing from a penguin path down into the ocean. You'll see it's going through the kelp. And then you can actually see the brown water flowing down from the nesting area. And then it flows slowly into the ocean. So it goes through the kelp line, it goes into the intertidal pools. This is also why it's so important that when we have gardens that we're using only natural fertilizers, that we're using very environmentally safe cleaning products. Because all of this has leached from the town of Betty's Bay because of the rain last night. And so all of this is coming from the town, it's running into the sea. And I never thought that we'd have our own personal waterfall down here at Stony Point, so I was very excited when I did find it here. And you'll see the water is a browny color, and that's because of the tannins of the fynbos. And I think the fish are going to have such a fun time as this leaches into the sea. Lucia, that's an awesome question. You're asking me what makes me most excited about Penguin Beach every day. Seeing different animals and having different sightings To be honest though, because I've been here so often, it's actually what we get to show you. So I'm most excited when I get to show you guys things that you have never seen before. And it's become about you. It's become about interacting with you guys, seeing your questions, answering your questions, answering them the next day after I've researched things. I know that might sound a bit silly, but I think that's what I've really come to enjoy. I always enjoy the animals. It's always a fantastic part of my job. But when you guide, you don't really guide because you love animals. You do, but you guide because you love telling people about animals and sharing that excitement and sharing the things that you love and hopefully getting other people excited about it. And even though we don't see each other and we don't see each other's faces, you get to know people's names. And so you do kind of get to know you guys, which is a lot of fun for me.
The Safari Guide of the Year 2022 is approaching us rapidly. This year, we'll be heading to Bushwise Field Guides at the Southern African Wildlife College from the 27th June till the 2nd of July. We will soon meet all our contestants who are vying for the prize of being the very best of the best, and the judges who will put them through their paces. Join me, Steve Falconbridge, as we dream it, guide it, win it.
If you would like to be a part of the team that shares the wildebeest migration in Kenya live on WildEarth, then we have some great news for you. There are a few places left to join our expeditions in August and September this year. You'll be staying in an exclusive tented camp with ensuite bedrooms nestled in the riverine woodlands of the Talek River. Head over to our website to book your bucket list experience today. WildEarth Expeditions. Travel with purpose.
So the last time I was here, I was laying down in between the frogs. Today, if I did that, I would be going for a swim. So I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to sit with my head slightly tilted and just let you hear the clicking stream frogs. I think they're having the best day today. And you can't see them. There's frogs beneath me, and you never see these little animals. They are so well hidden. I find that so interesting that you can't find them, even though there's likely hundreds in the grass here. So I hope you enjoyed getting to hear them. I'm going to hop out of this puddle because I can actually feel the water slowly coming through my shoes. I did not wear my gumboots today because I didn't think very clearly about what I'd be doing. I didn't realize we would have a waterfall to enjoy. I'm going to hop out of the bushes and out of the puddles. Today is Trishala's very last drive, so she's hoping that she's going to have some luck and see Tulamba. And she also would love to see the cubs. She wants to go and have a look for some elephants, spend time at the hyena den, so she's going all out for that last drive. And then she'd also love to see a chameleon. So lots on Trishala's wish list today. Chris is going for a walk. He's getting ready to see what Pridelands has to offer. Ali is also approaching her day with the same sort of attitude. And tomorrow is Father's Day. So tomorrow Jason and I will be in the intertidal zone and talking about male animals. In the sea, you don't get all that many great or very involved fathers. Let me put it that way. We'll be talking about what the male animals do. And tomorrow we've also got James Henry about in honor of Father's Day. He's going to be a father very soon. And I'm quite excited because I read James Henry's books when I was in high school, in my final year of school. So it's very cool that he's going to be on the show tomorrow. In his absence, I think we'll also celebrate Byron because Byron is a brilliant dad to his little baby. I really hope that you can hear the running water. And I hope that you're enjoying those sounds. I actually want to finish off the show by the water so you can hear it nice and clearly. I'm going to have to stream hop. Lee, thank you for watching, and I'm so glad you enjoyed the show today. I'm so glad we got to do so many different things. We had aloes, we looked at fold lines in the rock. We talked about tectonic plates and different names of different animals. So I had a very fun time today, and I'm so glad that you did too. So I'm going to try and get to where the main water is flowing so that we can finish off our show with those beautiful sounds. It's not quite the olifants or the Sabi River. It's amazing the charm of just a little bit of flowing water and the calm that sound brings. On behalf of Jason and I want to thank you so much for going walkies with us today. I hope that you had a great time having a look. You almost got to see the entire of Stony Point. So we had lots of fun showing it to you. We had lots of fun talking about the aloes and the different sites. Tomorrow is Jason's last day, so we're going to spend that at Mermaid Pools. We're going to see what the intertidal region has to show off for us. We're going to talk about barnacles and why the male barnacle is a very interesting little animal. And so we will see you again here tomorrow at 1:30. We're just going to spend those last moments with the sound and sight of Stony Point's little waterfall. Thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
This program features live coverage of an African safari and may include animal kills and carcasses. Viewer discretion is advised.